I like to call transmitting and receiving. That's kind of a statement that I like to use when describing the attitude or the identity that young people want to project through a culture of expression like hip hop. You know, it's so weird. You can go to a gas station and see a Muslim guy, and he'll have on a jumpsuit full of oil. He'll have on his work Dickies jumpsuit full of oil while he's putting in tires or fixing cars or whatever. But then at a certain time of day, he'll go in the back room away from everyone else and begin to pray to Allah. So he doesn't have to walk around showing Allah all day. But it's so funny how hip-hoppers, there's a certain kind of dress you have to do in order to be hip-hop. If I preach, you know, wearing some baggy clothes, sagging and all that, then I'm preaching through hip-hop. But if I wear a suit, if I decide to wear a suit and a tie, that's not hip-hop. So it's funny how this so-called culture is so superficial that it would be contingent upon the clothes that a person wears or the way a person speaks, when a true culture can express itself through the person because the person was born into it. And of course, we know you aren't born into hip-hop, you just accept its stupidity. The knowledge of self and the expression of the culture of hip-hop causes our youth to alter their appearance, their behavior, their language as a form of expressing their newfound knowledge and so-called consciousness. This puts them in a position of transmitting rather than receiving in places where their reception is vital. Now, what are these places where your reception is vital? Well, first of all, your relationship with your mother and father. Your reception there, to be able to receive, understand, and hear, is very vital. In churches, most youth and parents are separated because of the differences in their expression and ideas. Youth church that is centered around hip-hop is not a conduit for the adult service, but rather a replacement, and can never act as a bridge, but as a separate path altogether. You get the children and the parents in two separate parts of the church. They can never relate to each other. And I'm not talking about little babies that don't understand, but I'm talking about teenagers. They want to be in the room where they can throw up gang signs and get their groove on and just have a party and do all the latest step dances off TV, and they can mimic the fraternities and sororities, which, you know, most of those, well, almost all of those were created by a godless mentality of worship to false gods and Greek gods. They want to do the steps. They want to do the steps off TV. They want to imitate the gospel artists that are imitators. They want to imitate imitators so everybody can be imitating. But then over here we have the adult service where they're worshiping God in an adult way, or they're, you know, it's too grown up for the children. So the two can never come together, and hip hop is actually fighting against the agenda of the parents, because hip hop is telling the kids, your parents don't understand this. They can't understand. They can't relate. And then the adults are saying, I can't understand. I can't relate. And so we've got this thing causing enmity at a very vital time, church service. Because then when these kids get old enough, how are they going to ever migrate to the adult service? They're going to always think it's whack. I mean, look at it. How old are these holy hip-hoppers? Some of these rappers are in their 30s, still walking around sagging, talking about hip-hop this, and we need it, the church needed it. 30, 40 years old. I mean, when are you going to grow up? So it's very vital that transmitting and receiving is understood in your relationship with your parents. Hip-hop steals the true identity of a person and causes them to subscribe to a blanketed cultural identity. They must dress a certain way, walk and behave a certain way, and only be defined from within hip-hop rather than through their parental guidance. So who's teaching these kids how to dress? Their parents? No, it's Biggie and Tupac, it's Juvenile and the Cash Money Millionaires. It's the guys with the tattoos, the guys with the earrings. It's the guys they're seeing in fantasy world on TV. That's who dictates the dress. What about the girls? It's Lil' Kim, it's Alicia Keys, it's, you know, Mariah Carey. It's these artists they see on TV. That's where they want to get the tattoos. It's not their parents. These kids want to look like the hip-hop artists. Why? Because they feel like if I'm a part of the hip-hop generation, then these hip-hop artists you see on TV are representing me. So in order to represent hip-hop, I must look like them. And even the holy hip-hoppers, they're not creating a look, they're mimicking a look. If you look at them and compare them, if you turn the sound down on a holy hip-hop video, you wouldn't know whether it was Christian or secular. Why? Because they're trying so hard to be of that culture that they've lost their own identity. And nobody's asking God anything. God, is 2 earrings all right on a man? Should I tattoo my body? Should I pierce my navel or pierce my tongue? When was the last time a person asked God? Why would they ask God when all they have to do is ask hip-hop? The expression of hip-hop causes other forms of expression to be whack or non-relevant. Therefore, most holy hip-hoppers are only transmitters and cannot receive. I mean, if a person comes to a hip-hopper wearing a suit, the first thing he's gonna do is judge him and say, you're a suit wearer. I was on the phone with a couple of members of the cross movement, and the guy kept, referring to us as suit wearers and urban preppy dressers. And so it's like, I can't accept you because you're not down with the sag and with the fat laces or with your hat turned to the side. And so you're not looking like me, so I'm not gonna listen to you. But man, if that was true, then Jesus Christ would have been totally ineffective in his ministry, because he was on the streets. He wasn't looking like nobody. And I mean, he wasn't looking like anyone. And I don't care what these big dollar bishops say to make some money. Jesus did not have a royal garment walking the street. Jesus wasn't stupid. Only stupid people would be walking the streets in a priestly robe. That is ridiculous. But Jesus was able to relate to anybody that came to him. Any religion, any part. Why? Because it wasn't what was on the outside of him, but it was the Spirit of God on the inside of him. It is a known fact that when youth are in a transmitting mode, they are unteachable. That is why the public school systems of America are moving to uniforms and dress codes, because the expressiveness of this hip-hop culture is a distraction to the learning process of our youth. The military and mostly all boarding schools practice this as well. They know that if a person is transmitting, they cannot be totally receptive. How can a kid be sitting in a classroom, wanting everybody to see his gold teeth and his gold chain and his tattoos and his hat turned to the side, and he's expressing? How could he ever listen to a teacher wearing a nice dress or a nice suit and trying to teach the kid? Hip-hop says that they're whack. Hip-hop says you can't teach me. Hip-hop says you're not from the streets. You're not looking or representing the streets, so you can't talk to me. I'm from the streets. But the school system has more sense than the church, than some of these churches in this aspect. They know I must strip the kid of his identity before he's teachable. That's God's practice. That's what God does. God strips us of who we think we are in order to teach us who we really are. So how are you gonna do that? How are you gonna ever teach a kid when this music and this culture is teaching the kid that unless you look like me, unless you can identify with the streets or identify with me and know where I came from, I'm unteachable to you. I'm only transmitting, I can't receive. How will we ever reach kids like that? So these holy hip-hoppers are doing something very foolish. They're turning the kids into transmitters. So when the kids come to church, they want to throw their hands up, throw the gang signs up, get on the altar, act the fool. Oh, I gotta dance. The kids won't come unless they're a part of the praise dance team, unless they're a part of the choir. They won't come unless they can get on stage and show themselves. That's what this culture is doing to our young people.